Any that you may have on the index cards that you've been given, and the ushers will come through and collect them. Without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our moderator tonight. Thane Rosenbaum is a novelist, essayist, and law professor, and author of several critically acclaimed books of fiction and nonfiction. His essays appear regularly in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, among other national publications. Thane is the John Whelan Distinguished Lecturer in Law at Fordham University and the director of the Forum on Law, Culture, and Society. And, of course, Thane is a longtime friend of the 92nd Street Y, who has brought countless luminaries to our stage and has hosted dozens of conversations on culture and politics over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, Thane Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome to the 92nd Street Y. Our guest this evening is the great and talented and still very young Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse's known for such films as Roger Dodger and Holy Rollers and Switzerland and Adventureland and Zombieland. By the way, if you're a Zombieland fan, we're not going to be showing any clips from Zombieland. There'll be clips from other films, not Zombieland. It's really not a Jewish film. I looked at it again with my daughters the other night. I was searching. There was nothing in there. Even the Twinkies I don't think are kosher.
No subtext or text.
No, I couldn't find anything. So we'll go with one of the Land films, the Adventureland. And of course, he received an Oscar nomination, as we now all know, for the Mark Zuckerberg biopic, The Social Network. And we'll talk about that as well. And we're going to talk about his play, The Revisionist. But before we do, I don't want to get carried away here, but you probably don't remember this, and it upsets me that you don't. But I kind of discovered you. Yeah, it's always that way, is it not? You know, the person takes you there, and then I don't even know who you are. What? Who are you? Yes.
You keep sending me invoices. But...
Yes. I'm pretty much responsible for your career, and I tell people that. Here, let's look at this photo. Now that's a picture of Jesse over there.
Right.
Oh, by the way, does anyone know who the middle person is? Who is that? This is an interesting trivia question. Who is that? It's an actor, very famous guy. Here's the trivia. In his younger days, he was the original Captain Von Trapp in the Broadway The Sound of Music.
Right.
Who is that? Theo Vauquel, that's right, the legendary Theo Vauquel.
And a t-shirt.
Yes, and that is a bust of Muhammad Ali. Jesse Eisenberg was co-starring in a play off-Broadway, The Jewish Rep, only a few blocks from here. It doesn't exist anymore here. How old were you? Do you remember?
I was 15 or 16.
Which is amazing because he's playing a 12-year-old. He always looked young. He's on the eve of his bar mitzvah.
Right.
That's Theo Vauquel plays his grandfather. The play is called The Gathering. His grandfather kidnaps him and takes him to Bitburg to protest President Reagan's decision to deliver a speech to honor the soldiers of Bitburg, not knowingly that there were Gestapo and Nazi officers buried at Bitburg. Theo Vauquel plays the righteous Holocaust survivor grandfather. He takes his grandson with him to have the bar mitzvah there. And that's your start. I wrote that article. It was a Sunday piece in the Arts and Leisure section of the New York Times. Yeah. This was a time in the Arts and Leisure, everyone read the Sunday paper, and I always imagined that your parents in New Jersey woke up on Sunday morning and saw that and went, "Oh my God."
Well, they did wake up on Sunday morning.
And are they the kind of Jewish parents that looked at that and said, "Our son has arrived," or did they think, "Are you kidding? He's going to get an Academy Award nomination one day"?
I think even if it said he's terrible and his claims to never act again, they would have thought I arrived. You mentioned something.
Well, it's good to see you again, and it really is. It wasn't, it's 14 years ago?
Yeah.
Quite a ride for you.
Yeah. Okay,
Let's start off with a clip. This will be Holy Rollers, and then we'll talk about The Revisionist. This is the scene from Holy Rollers. If you've seen it, Jesse plays a Hasidic boy in a family. He either Borough Park in Williamsburg, and he gets involved in drug smuggling. And this is the scene in which his father finally realizes what his son has been up to. This is Jesse from Holy Road.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Actually, Tom, I have to go somewhere, so.
I said sit down. You lied to me, didn't you? Yeah. No. You didn't lie. No. No one is lying to me. You didn't lie. No. Tata, I didn't do anything. Why did I got to my house looking for the guy? I'm a criminal of my house.
Tata, what did he tell you? What did the Rebbe tell you?
You have to hide you from the community.
You don't have to hide me from anybody. I didn't do
You
anything.
have to hide you from your own brother.
Stop. I didn't do anything.
Why, Shaul?
I didn't do anything wrong, Tata.
Why?
Tata, I have to go.
You are a liar. You're a criminal. You're not my son.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Tata,
I'm looking for you.
no. Look at me.
Well, please go away. Go away. Go away from my house. You understand me? Go away.
Holy Roll. Interesting, complicated character.
Yeah.
Clearly Jewish subject.
Somebody pays.
Yeah, the Payas is a dead giveaway. And it does have a kind of Jesse Eisenberg feel. There's the sort of the conflict with the family, the conflict with the self, the sort of the running away from it, not sure where one is to be led. What kind of a home did you grow up in New Jersey? Was this a Jewish home? Because you have gotten a number of Jewish roles.
I think it started out more Jewish than it ultimately became. I think we got increasingly more secular, just as it seems to me where I grew up seemed to become increasingly secular, kind of irrespective of my family. For me, I started to get more interested in theater, and by virtue of that, left Hebrew school and, just became interested in something other than Judaism. My, father told me that it would really upset my grandparents, that I dropped out of Hebrew before I got a bar mitzvah, and I called them, and they seemed to be okay with it. And
Did they see the gathering when you had your bar mitzvah at Bitburg?
right, they saw that, and they were whispering to their neighbors that it was fake. And actually, when I was doing this movie, Holy Rollers, I was probably like 25. And I hadn't had a bar mitzvah, and I was going to the 770 school in Crown Heights I kind of infiltrated it to learn about the culture, and they actually gave me a bar mitzvah because I said I was, a secular Jew, kind of looking for, whatever it is that they were wanting me to find, and then they gave me a bar mitzvah. They wrapped it filling around, and I learned about it, and I actually had a bar mitzvah. So that by the time I shot the movie, I was actually a Jewish man.
I was going to say that you could get an honorary bar mitzvah. You've served your time. You've done so many Jewish-themed pieces.
Right, yeah, it's like I haven't graduated from college yet, but I'm hoping for like an honorary degree to happen before, which was kind of the equivalent.
But neither did Mark Zuckerberg.
Right, when he graduated.
Right, so you're in
Yeah.
extremely good company.
He has a little something more to show for it.
I'm not sure. His stock price is dropping, yours is going up. That's true. But there is, because I want to talk about the revisionists. I read somewhere that your family traveled to Poland. Was that an Eisenberg family trip, or would that have nothing to do with this play, right?
No, what happened was I have a very close relationship with my aunt. She's 101. She was born in Krasnostaw, which is a little town in southeastern Poland. And I told her if I ever got into a movie in Europe, I would go visit this house that she grew up in. And then I got into a movie that was filming in Bosnia, and so I didn't know so much about geography, so I thought I could, have like a after work excursion to sketching. But I promised her I'd go to this little town and I would see the house she grew up in. she would always tell me about it. So I was doing this movie, and after the movie ended, I flew story because it's a funnier part of it. When I took all these pictures of the house and I brought them back to my aunt, and she looked at them for a second and said, "Oh yeah, I think that was it." And that was it. She couldn't care less that I had 2 weeks, rented a car, got into a car accident in Poland. And, but
Is that true? You had a car accident?
I had a car accident, and the guy, well, it's unimportant. But anyway, I was a victim. Anyway,
I was a victim.
I think he's not the first time. But the more interesting part of the trip was I have a cousin who still lives there. She lives in Szczecin, which is in the northwestern part of the country, really close to Berlin, near the Baltic Sea, and she has survived the war in the most. I guess there is no story that's not unique, but she was hidden with a Catholic family in Krasnodar on the other side of the country, and survived the war hiding with his family, and then married one of the brothers of the family, and then moved to the shipyards on the other side of the country. And I was staying with her for like 2 weeks. She's this very lonely woman. Her husband died. She had a son who was killed in a car accident. I mean, after living through such horror. And so I started kind of writing the play based on a fictionalized version of our interaction. So that's what the play is.
So it's that and the Polish trip that somehow informs the revisionist.
Yeah, I mean, I've had such a close relationship with my aunt in New York that, I always think it's kind of interesting dynamic that we have. She's so much older than me and has just had such a different life than I have. And the thing I really wanted to focus on in the play is kind of the different perspectives on family. My cousin in Poland has no physical connection to the American family, and yet she had pictures all over the house, and she knew all the cousins I had never heard of that I live in the same city. And I thought it was interesting how dismissive I was of the family that I'm so close to geographically, and how connected she feels to a family that she doesn't really even know. And so that was like the main theme that I try to capture in the play.
So tell us what the play's about.
So the play is about this young science fiction novelist who has to go to, who was trying to revise this novel that was due 6 weeks ago. And he's having kind of writer's block in New York, so he decides to fly to Poland because he thinks if he does something dangerous or dirty, and he considers Poland both of those things, that it will cure him of his writer's block. So he naively takes this grand trip to Poland because he knows he has a free room there with this cousin who he knows survived the war, and he thinks if he goes there, it'll kind of inspire him. And so Vanessa Redgrave plays my second cousin, and she is this, as I mentioned, kind of profoundly lonely woman, obsessed with her American family. My character is totally dismissive of his American family, and she has a very complicated post-war past that my character starts to uncover over the course of their kind of tenuous bond.
But he doesn't go to Poland for that purpose.
No, in fact, he goes to Poland exclusively for the free room and for peace and quiet, which he discovers early on is going to be impossible. And she assumes he's there just to visit her. As much as he tells her he's there to write his book, she, being so lonely and having created this fantasy of their relationship, creates a room for him and a life for him and wants him to stay and be in there. It's just, he just wants nothing for her to leave. He says, I thought you had a job. She said, no, I volunteered at the library, but I took the week free for you. And he says, I wish you didn't do that. I thought I would have the days free to work and we'd maybe run into each other at night. He has a plan in his head that's so different from hers.
And we're all going to see this play, right?
That was my house after.
Cast party, you're all invited.
Yeah.
So we're going to see the play, but there's something in her backstory that comes out.
Yeah, this is fictionalized, but more interesting, dramatically. That she's, kind of harboring this, at the risk of revealing too much, she's harboring something about, her family and, her post-war history, which is not, unfortunately, atypical. I was reading a lot about, people found, after the war, things were obviously so complicated, and, people's histories are complicated and full of things that they may feel, regretful or conflicted about.
It's actually I haven't seen the play. I really want to for a number of reasons. People, I know I wrote about this years ago. One of the things about the Shoah Foundation, the Spielberg project that came out of Schindler's List, the oral testimony projects, and one of the things I wrote years ago, which is, these things are cathartic in their own way, but everyone has a dark story that they haven't told their family.
Right.
And that, be very careful when you hear these things, because it's it's just gonna re-traumatize the people. You know, they for decades didn't say a word, and all of a sudden Steven Spielberg said, "Camera, you know,
Yeah.
you're on." And many people reported how painful it was, and many families sat and watched these oral testimonies and were shocked by what was being said.
Right, even people on the periphery of those stories, like my grandfather who was in America when it happened, never talked about what happened to his cousins, and he's kind of a tertiary figure in their part.
Mm-hmm. And yet, all of a sudden, there is this darkness, and it should have in some ways been expected. So I can't wait to see what you've done here.
Okay.
I read that Vanessa Redgrave read the play and said, "I have to be in this."
Yeah, it was nice. I wrote the play about 6 years ago, and I had seen her in Year of Magical Thinking while I was writing it. And I thought, you know, I mean, it was like the greatest performance I'd ever seen as a one-woman show. And I really wanted to get it to her, but never, you know, considered that being a real possibility. And then I had like my first play played last year, and her agent saw it, and they asked me, they liked it, they said, "Do you have anything else?" And I gave them this play. They thought it'd be right for her, and I said, you know, actually, I've been secretly hoping to get it to her. And within like 2 weeks, she had read it and signed on to it. It was like the perfect kind of process after kind of 5 years of trying to.
And incredibly flattering as the playwright.
Yeah, it was really, yeah. And she's just the most wonderful actress, obviously, her talents, but she's so thoughtful about everything. You know, she comes in to rehearsal every day with articles that she cuts out of the paper that, you know, are kind of, you know, like connected to the play in not even direct way. She's just so interested. You know, she speaks a lot of Polish in the play, and she's been in Polish classes. And she's just so, you know, professional and interested in what she's doing.
You know, we mentioned this upstairs in the green room. You know, it's so ironic. I don't know, this audience maybe, I can't even see you, so I don't know how old you are. But there is a sort of a side story to the Vanessa Redgrave piece in this Jesse Eisenberg post-Holocaust